This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. That is Keith Sims.
What's up, Big O? How you doing, man?
I'm loving life, man. How you been? How's the family? All good?
Everybody's good. No complaints.
You RVing nowadays, huh? Talk to us about your new biz.
Well, I love the RV lifestyle. My wife got me into it about 7 years ago, wanting to homeschool the boys and take them around and travel. And hey, I fell in love with it totally and completely. And we try to spend as much time in our RV as possible. We split time between Orlando and our home here in Georgia and getting out on the road. I've missed it because COVID's kind of forced us to pull back from that considerably over the last 18 months. But looking forward to getting out there this fall.
I'm with you, man. I've been dying to do the RV thing, get with the wife and get on the road and have some fun. That would be absolutely amazing. It's that's a killer experience. And by the way, as climate change takes over, maybe now's the time. You know what I'm saying? Because the world might be a little different 10, 20, 30 years from now, you know?
Absolutely. Being mobile and be able to get out there and discover new places that may be a little bit safer to live is a definite positive.
Yes. I'm with you there, my brother. So it's great to hear you. It's great to see you're doing well. It's good to see you're still working with a towel on your shoulder. So
just finished my workout for the day. So
I love it. So have you been watching our beloved Dolphins as they had a rough one this week against the Bills?
Yeah, they definitely did have a rough one this week. I have been definitely paying attention. You know, I love the Dolphin organization and the team, and I was very excited about this upcoming season, telling all my friends here in Atlanta, hey, this is a year where I think the Dolphins are going to take that next step and be a playoff football team. And I always tell everyone, do not panic after 2 weeks. It's still a long, long season. Was Sunday something that they wanted to put on film? Absolutely not. I mean, you never want to get beat. You never want to put a 0 up on the scoreboard, let alone your home opener, a division foe. But they have an opportunity to correct that this week, traveling out to Las Vegas, and that's what I hope they do.
Well, listen, one of the things that I brought up, and hindsight is 2020, obviously, but the one concern I do have, and there's nobody better asked than you, is that what I don't like is, and maybe they bit off more than they can chew on this one, it's too many young guys. I don't mind if you're trying to break in 1, 2 guys. 3 is kind of crazy already. Kansas City started to do it the other night, and immediately the LSU kid snapped the ball over Mahomes' head right away. And it's really hard to do something like that. If you're breaking in 1 or 2 guys and they're stuck in between Keith Sims and Tim Ruddy, now, okay, so now, they got some guidance. They got people that can help them. They can help them cheat a little bit. Hey, kid, watch out for this middle linebacker. He's going to try to pop us right now. So be alert, whatever, all those kind of little things that you guys can do for each other. And I kind of feel bad that there's a lot of young guys and they look to their right and their left, and there's not a lot of experience and people they can lean on. Is that a concern? Am I a little too concerned about that?
No, I think we all have to be concerned about the offensive line. And I know it's frustrating for the organization. It's frustrating for fans. It is not like the Dolphin organization hasn't spent draft capital to fix this problem, haven't spent free agency money to fix this problem. And then so once you look at those 2 factors that they've spent the resources, what is the issue here? When I go back to my rookie year, and I hate to play this card, but we had the youngest offensive line in the entire NFL. Richmond and I were rookies. Jeff Yulnake was a first-year player. He had 1 year of experience. Harry Galbraith and Mark Dennis, our starting line that opening day, had the maximum amount of experience was a 3-year player. That was Mark Dennis, only his first year starting. And we led the league in sacks. Now, we had the great number 13 behind us, which definitely helped and assisted. But we also had one of the all-time best offensive line coaches in John Sandusky, who really drilled down on the particulars, the basics, and forced us to learn. We also had the fact that we had a week of rookie training camp. We had 6 weeks of two-a-days. We had 4 weeks of preseason games where we were hitting. Richmond and I got out an entirety of the entire 4 weeks of preseason since we were starting on the left side. We got 3 plays off that entire preseason. So we were allowed to make mistakes in practice. We were allowed to make mistakes in the preseason games. And by the time we got to opener in New England that year, we had seen a lot. We had learned to communicate, and we had learned to work together as an offensive line. I think that factor of the limited offseason, the fact that they don't get a chance to hit, they don't have hit. Two-a-days.
They don't hit, bro. Bro, they don't hit at all. They don't hit at all.
Offensive line is a position, and I'm helping coach my son's 12-year-old team here in Georgia, and I'm coaching the offensive defensive line. And that is the hardest thing to teach these kids, is to be able to come off the ball and move your feet and take the right steps. They don't get it at this level. And I think they're doing these guys a disservice in some respect. And I know we got to protect players. Trust me, the way my body feels, yeah, you need to protect players. But you got to try to find a balance to be able to get the offensive line the work they need without putting their long-term health in jeopardy.
Yeah, no, and last year they had no offseason.
Yeah.
So virtual. Yeah. Can you imagine, dude? Everything's virtual. I mean, I went to practice a couple weeks back, and there's no hitting. I mean, you know, I was used to walking in, and the first thing Jimmy would do with you guys how would you start training camp? With an inside drill. The beginning of the damn day started with an inside drill, all out. I mean, hitting, tackling, and, you know, it really gave you a feel for even as a reporter, I could tell you, Keith, we got a better feel for you guys on what you could be by watching training camp, by watching the preseason, because we saw a lot of hitting. Nowadays, they don't hit at all. And then I can't imagine, you know, how difficult this must be for all of these guys that don't have any experience, and now they're coming into their second year, and this was like their first year where they actually had somewhat of an off season.
Absolutely. And then you got to throw in the fact that a lot of these kids are coming from college programs where they run this spread offense where, hey, let's all look to the sideline, which I personally hate. We were forced to think and react on our feet in that game. And they're not doing it. Their coaches are telling them every single ball, you block this guy. And then there's a change, and then that confusion. And people have to understand, all you need is a split second of indecision, and you're beat, and your quarterback gets hurt, or your back gets stopped for a 3-yard loss.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. They have they're so paranoid to lose their jobs that they, you know, look at the quarterbacks nowadays. When the quarterbacks get to the NFL, they're not nearly as smart as they used to be because they don't allow them to run the offense. They don't allow them to make some changes along the offense. They don't allow them to do any of that stuff. Everything is called from the sidelines, so they don't have to think. They're already doing it for them, and that's kind of, I'm with you, that's kind of hurt them. And then the other thing about college, as you know, it's a passing game.
Yes.
So and so you really don't. Road graders are few and far between now. Can you imagine, Keith, being a scout, trying to figure out if a guy can actually run block? That's like you get a good pass blocking in college, but run blocking, that's actually hard to find nowadays, or hard for them to figure it out.
It really is. And it was difficult back in my day as well, because you had offenses back then like Oklahoma, Nebraska, who played the wishbone, and they never made adjustments. They just lined up. And we played Oklahoma my senior year, and I was a weak guard, which meant we flipped weak and strong. And we lost to Oklahoma 47-45 on an onside kick the last play of the game. We had 400-plus yards rushing because we noticed if we took the fullback out and walked him out, the weak side linebacker went. And it was just one-on-one blocking backside. It was myself and Gene Williams, who played in the league for 9 years. And we just mauled those guys and went right through the gap. They never adjusted. Those old school programs didn't adjust. So those linemen, unlike me, who had to learn 3 different systems and a pro-style offense in college, I got to the Dolphins and I was used to learning offenses, reading second levels and those kind of things. There's a lot of linemen that come from those programs that are stuck in a system that don't force them to read or to understand, hey, if a corner can't blitz outside if there's no safety over the top to cover. So you got to peek up there and you can get a pre-snap look. We were taught those things, and I don't know if this line is taught that things now in the NFL, to look past the guy in front of you to help you discern what blitzes might be coming, what blocking schemes, or what calls you have to employ.
All right, so Keith, I don't want to put a ton of pressure on the O-line coach because there's so many young guys on there, but since you know this position well, how do they overcome all of this? Because I'm not ready to give up like people are giving up Austin Jackson, who's a baby in this league, dude. And all the other guys. And the other thing that I've tried to prepare people is they've spent 5 draft picks.
Yeah.
You're not going to hit on all 5.
No, definitely not.
So maybe 2 or 3 of these guys are going to make it. Be prepared. A couple of these guys, I hope they don't fail. Yeah. And that means Chris Greer is the greatest GM of all time if he hit on all 5 of these draft picks. But be prepared. A couple of these guys are going to fail. That's why you spend. That's why you go with the fishnet approach and you get a bunch of guys and then try to work them in. So what would you do at this point, knowing what's going on? And the second part of that question, Jesse Davis is, let's be honest, he's really not your future. He's a fantastic 6th man. I really compare him to Andrew Gardner years ago that could play
going back.
Positions.
Okay.
Remember that?
Absolutely.
And I like him in that position where he can fill in multiple spots. Look, you're going young, right? Well, then, dude, keep the youth movement going and get Eichenberg in there, and let's go. Let's roll. Let's find out who can play and who can't. That's what I say. How would you handle this? How do you think they tackle this situation?
Well, I think, first of all, I give a lot of respect to Jesse Davis because it's got to be very difficult to be a utility lineman like that, playing multiple positions. I mean, I was blessed where they plugged me in at left guard. I started 150 games at left guard. I think I played 11 or 20 snaps at right guard. I was in that one position and able to perfect my techniques and learn how to play that position and not have to worry about multiple.
Right?
Dellenbach was
he did that, right? Didn't he move around to a couple positions?
Dellenbach was a tackle and he was a center. In fact, him and Roy Foster were the starting left tackle of guard when they drafted Richmond, and then they moved them to back up and around. As far as what do you do to fix this problem, I think it's tough. It's multi-layered. You've got to try to simplify the offense as best as possible so the guys know exactly who to block, regardless of what they do, whether they shift, whether they blitz, whatever they do, you know where to block. So take that indecision out the best you can. And sometimes that's making it simple. And by golly, if they know we're running a dive left, I don't care. It still comes down to man-on-man blocking. So simplify it as best as you can. Now, on top of that, one of the things that we were able to do, of course, because we have Marino and those great receivers, Clayton Duper and Irvin and Mark Ringham, and Keith Jackson and Terry Kirby, we spread people out, which we put 4 or 5 guys out, which forced them to declare what they're going to do and help the line once again declare who's coming and who's not coming. So if you have that ability, and the Dolphins, one of the things coming into the season, the Dolphins were raving about this receiving core. I know you're going to get Will Fuller back this week. Hopefully that'll help. And Jalen Waddle's going to be fine. Don't worry about him. He's going to be an outstanding receiver for this team. So if you can get those guys in space and force the defense to honor that may help open up some things for this offensive line. Also, you got to run the football. We all know. I have not met an offensive lineman who didn't want to pound on the defensive line, who didn't want to lean on those guys. But just in turn, if they call these running plays, the offensive line has got to produce 3, 4, 5 yards of carry. And then gives your OC that incentive to continue to call the plays. As far as keeping the young guys in, I think you got to find a mix. Try to put the best guys in the best position that they're comfortable in. Maybe stop moving guys around so much. Say, hey, you're going to be the right tackle, and that's all you're going to work on. Or you're going to be the left tackle, that's all you're going to work on. Whoever it is, let them focus their whole week of practice on one position and roll with those 5 guys, whoever they may be, and then see what happens.
Have you been satisfied with anybody's play so far? I can't say anybody's played well. I mean, in my eyes, actually, I think Beer's done a really nice job of actually transitioning to center. I'm not telling you I'm not telling you he's Jim Langer. I'm not telling you he's Dwight Stevenson or anything. I'm not going there, but I'm just saying I think he's done a decent job overall, considering he's made such a change. But on the line, is there anybody that you see some hope with right now?
Well, I see a lot of hope in that room. I mean, I'm always going to root for the offensive line. Now, they need a little bit of time to gel and come together. Like you said, so a lot of these guys came in last year, didn't have an off season. This year, things are so watered down now, they don't have a lot of time to work together. And once again, they're going with multiple lines. Instead of, again, I hate to go back to this, my rookie year, they put Richmond in, and that was it. They didn't rotate 4 or 5 guys in. The backups had to go left guard, right guard, that kind of thing. But the 5 guys they wanted to be there opening day, they let us play those positions and let us play together. I think maybe they have to try to get to that way and commit to a group of 5 for 4 or 5 games and say, you guys got it for the next 4 or 5 games. And then you evaluate how that line performs each week and grows. And if they're after 4 or 5 weeks, they're not doing it, then you make the substitution. But to pull a guy out in the middle of the game, unless he's having a completely horrendous game, I wouldn't do that, or injury, or to substitute guys week to week without injuries, I think it's tough to get that continuity on the offensive line. But I believe these guys were drafted, whether they're drafted because they have potential. They just need to put that potential together with results. And I think at that point, we'll be a lot more positive on what comes out of the offensive line.
Now, to Jesse Davis's defense, he's had some knee swelling.
Yes.
And he allowed the most pressures this week. This is why I say go with Eichenberg already. Okay. And go develop the kid because, one, this gives Jesse Davis hopefully a little time to recover being the 6th guy. And he's so good at being able to play multiple positions. You really don't have another guy like that. So if something does happen to somebody else, he can be the guy that fills in at the same time. So it's kind of a double whammy. It allows you to throw the young man in there and finally find out if he can play. You've got the veteran out there right now, and he's not 100%. So you're really not doing him a favor by playing him like that. And you've gotten to know a little bit of Jesse. He's a tough bitch.
He is.
He's going to fight through it. And, oh yeah, coach, I can get it done. And you know how it is. They've got to protect you from you guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Shula used to ask us, are you hurt? Shula used to ask us all the time, are you hurt or are you injured? If you're hurt, you can't play. If you're injured, everybody's injured. And that was one of those things that Jesse's in the offensive line mentality is, hey, you play, that when you're called upon, you line up and whatever you can do. That was a lot of games I played when I probably shouldn't have played. And I think the mentality has changed a little bit, but you're right, where if you get to the point where you're not able to function and you're hurting the team, then you may need to take a week or 2 or 3 off. And that would play into the ability of, hey, if you put Lamb in and he performs well, you let him go a little bit. But I understand Jesse's position. You never want to be the guy who steps out and then loses his job permanently. Because even though we value that 6th lineman role and know how valuable it is, if you asked me, would I want to be a 6th lineman, a valuable position on a team, and have a 10-year career, or start for 8 years, I would rather start for 8 years. And that everyone wants to be a starter and wants to be out there. There's roles that need to be filled. And if he slides in that role again, then I think he'll do a great job and be a great teammate. But I think once you get the taste of starting, you want to be a starter. And it's hard to step back unless you're forced to step back.
And you're going to make a little more money, too, on top of all that. By the way, one of those years, I don't know if we can reveal it now. I'll ask you. It was one of those Jimmy years that you played with some kind of a lower leg injury throughout the year. Do you remember what it was?
Well, there was a lot of years I played.
No, but there was one specific year during the Jimmy tenure that you were effed up, dude.
Well, the big year was 97 when I tore my tricep.
Right.
And, you hear torn tricep, the player goes on injured reserve.
Right.
Well, they didn't put me on injured reserve. And they put me back out there weeks later with a rodeo brace on my arm trying to play. And that's what led to my getting cut from Jimmy from the Dolphins and landing in Washington, and the rest is history. I always regret that. I wish I had played my entire career in Miami. I love the Dolphin organization. The Redskin organization, the Washington football team organization treated me fantastic. Had a great time my 3 years up there, but if I had to do it, I would have rather just been a Dolphin for life.
I'm with you. Hey, James Johnson, bro. A lot of people don't know he had that hamstring. He had like a quarter hole in his hamstring, and they forced his ass back onto the field, and his career was over. Brian Walker, the safety. You remember Brian Walker, the safety?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
He played with a messed up knee ligament, went back out there. After that, I mean, what they used to do to you guys.
My career ended in Washington because I hurt my Achilles in the third game.
OJ McDuffie, dude.
Same thing. I mean, and The difference is now players have a lot more leverage with the guaranteed contracts than we did. I mean, Big O, when I was in Washington, third game of the game, we played in Philadelphia. I hurt my Achilles. I couldn't walk the next day. I had to hop into the park, got an MRI, it strained. I get called up to the Norv Turner's office, and in the office is Daniel Snyder, our owner, and Norv Turner. And they're like, hey, doesn't matter what you do, we need you to play. You know, we're trying to go to the Super Bowl this year, blah, 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 blah. Your backup's terrible. I shot up. I didn't practice the rest of the season. I shot up my Achilles for 11 consecutive weeks to play, numbed it. And then they fired Norv Turner. They put Terry Bisky in as head coach, and he calls me in. I haven't practiced all year long. I need you to practice. I practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, third play of the next game against the Cowboys. I tear my Achilles. It ends up ending my career. And I just signed a brand new contract. Nice. And 11th year, I was having fun.
And those contracts didn't have the same kind of guarantees, by the way.
No, and then I tear it in December. They hire Marty Schottenheimer a month later. I go in his office on crutches, 3 weeks removed from Achilles surgery. My agent tells me there's no way they can cut you, because if they cut you, it's going to cost them more on the salary cap than if they keep you and ask you to take minimum. After an hour, great conversation, he says, Keith, I'm going younger. I got to cut you. They cut me on crutches after they asked me to play her. That's the NFL. And that certainly was the NFL now. So for players today, I do not begrudge a single one. When they're not 100%, don't go out there unless you're financially secure.
You know what I've always said about football? It's really it's a modern day Roman gladiators. The only difference is back in the day, you saw them die right in the ring, and they dragged their bodies out. Now we don't give a shit about Earl Campbell in a wheelchair. We don't care that Vince McMahon can't find his keys. Yeah, we forget about him, and then we move on to the next guy, and their families are the ones that inherit all of these issues, and we just treat people like meat and just move on, and we don't realize the hell. I was having a little fun with this the other day. Do you think that play at Marshall University and Leftwich, that would never happen in today's world? That the guy's playing with a bum knee and they're carrying him from down to down. There's no way in today's world they would allow a player to stay on the field. When, when he's injured, he is out, supposed to be in the damn training room being taken care of, or maybe out to the hospital already or something. And he's being carried from play to play. Imagine that nowadays, dude.
Never happened. I mean, I think about Robert Griffin Jr. His issue in when he was in Washington. I mean, he should have never been on that field. And you ask yourself the question: he was on track to be that dynamic quarterback in the league, that Lamar Jackson back then. If he hadn't suffered that injury, I think his career would have been completely. We could be talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback career versus a guy that, hey, is a disappointment because he got injured, and then look at him now these days. So.
That Haloti Ngata hit, who's going to survive that, man? And let me tell you, I'll give you my theory on all of that. Okay, as you probably know, Dan Snyder wanted RG3. The mastermind did not.
No, I understand.
That's why Shanahan drafted Cousins in the 4th round. It was the same thing as Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy didn't want Troy Aikman. But he then took Steve Walsh in the supplementary draft after that. And then once he saw Troy was the real deal, he then traded Steve to Chicago after that. Same thing here. Shanahan didn't want RG3. He never wanted RG3. RG3 was all effed up, and he kept him in the game. And then came that Haloti Ngata thing where you saw him. He was limping around. It was like, dude, he has no business being on there. Shanahan didn't give a shit about him. He played him. He got him injured, and then he got his guy in. Kirk Cousins. The rest is history. To me, that was the politics that was going on in Washington, because the owner fell in love with RG3 and the coach never wanted RG3, and that was a problem for them. At least Jimmy, he got lucky that he saw that Troy was a stud, but he had that history with Troy from Oklahoma to UCLA, broken leg and all that stuff, so he didn't believe in him and all that. But it's funny how, all the politics, the BS that goes on behind the scenes, and the stuff like most people didn't know anything about James Johnson and the quarterback pulling his hammy. They don't know about. They don't know about Walker playing screwed up with the knee. They don't know about you playing with the stuff. I did because I was in the damn locker room watching you guys get dressed, and we're like, holy crap, this guy's gonna go out there like this. Yeah. It's nuts, man.
And thank goodness that bum knee I have 2 bum knees, but I got a total knee replacement a year and a half ago, and thank goodness, because that knee feels better. Now I've got to get the other one done. But people, like you said, people don't understand how we as players feel 10, 20, 30 years after we hang up the cleats, and the daily pain, not even talking about the concussion stuff. But I'm glad players are playing the game safer today, because now I can look at my boys and say, hey, if you want to play football, as long as we do it in a safe manner, that's fine.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good stuff as always. Keith, my brother, thank you for taking some time and talking some Dolphin football. I'm trying to walk people off the ledge. Whoa, relax. Like, this guy came back from 0-7 the first year and went 5-4, and everybody says tanking. And he went 5. Last year they started 0-2 and then went 10-4.
Exactly.
So this is one resilient mofo. Okay,
it is.
To me, I think personally, I know I'm way ahead of everything, but I think he's our best coach since Shula. That's just me.
I totally agree with you. I buy into a system, what he's doing, what he's teaching these guys, what he's expecting from these guys. I look forward to next weekend is the Dolphin Alumni Weekend. I'm scheduled to come on down, so I'm looking forward to that Colts game and getting a chance to talk to Brian Flores and seeing all my old teammates and guys and honoring the late, great Coach Shula.
There you go. Awesome. It's going to honor. And the stadium is so beautiful now.
Yeah.
It's really, I'm sure the locker rooms aren't as nice as the ones you had in the Orange Bowl.
Luckily, I never played in the Orange Bowl, but
or early in Pro Player,
in the Joe Robbie Stadium days.
Yes, Joe Robbie. Yes, I'm sure they're or the practice facilities either. Damn, that thing's I want to live in that practice facility too.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I haven't seen the new one, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. So
good stuff, Keith. I love you, brother. Thank you for taking the time, man.
Hopefully we'll connect next weekend when I come to town.
Damn right. You got it, baby. You be good.
Have a blessed one.
There you go. Keith Sims, man. Good dude.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.